comes Tony, walking in the room, mic in hand, something's about to boom. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Sit right down, let me hear your voice. Share your thoughts, Tony gives you choice. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. You always speak, Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony speaks. He's got something to say every single day. He's got something to say. Come on out and play. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony. Big Tony speaks.
What is going on, everyone? Hope you're doing well today. This is Big Tony Speaks, and I am Big Tony, your host, and I hope you're doing great today. If you will, before we get started, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. It is a thumbs up on both platforms, YouTube and Rumble. No matter what you want to call it, it's a thumbs up. So click that thumbs up, show me some love while you're down there. If you're not already subscribed on YouTube to the channel and following the channel on Rumble, do so now. Hit your respective buttons and smash that notification bell so you know when I come on. Just treat it like it owes you money and refuses to pay. And hope you are marked safe from Friday the 13th. Today is Friday the 13th. So I've been inside my apartment all day long. So, well, with the exception of a few minutes where I had no choice but to go out. But I am marked safe from Friday the 13th, at least so far. Oh, Lord have mercy. Anyway. To start today's show off, we're going to react together to a video. I have not watched the video. I saw some clips of it, and it's a short video, by the way. But I saw a couple of little 30-second clips of it, and I thought we might want to react to it here together. So that's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and jump into this and get this thing started, get the show on the road as it were. Here we go. I hope everybody is seeing the video. It's showing on all three of my screens.
Those two guys, I think they were on a bridge or in a park or something. They were doing mag changes with
Sean Ryan, by the way.
When you look at that video, when you look at how proficient that guy is at operating a bolt-action rifle with speed. I got 6 years as a SEAL and 9 working as a CIA contractor, and I can't fucking operate a bolt-action like that.
These guys are training in advanced urban warfare. They're training 7 days a week. They're training in small teams. So they want to strike like the CIA, the FBI, and the DOD in some manner. And the way it sounds like they're planning to do this is a siege on DC like Mumbai.
Witnesses, some of whom escaped in the chaos of the attacks, say men stormed into some of the city's most popular hotels with automatic weapons and grenades, and they seem to be specifically looking for Westerners.
Okay, law enforcement, study Mumbai, right? Because then you can learn how that's done.
Not just hotels, but at least 7 separate locations in the center of the city were attacked, including a train station and a popular restaurant.
What are they waiting for? Why wait?
When they train them, they do say, hey, when we sent the guys to Nairobi, remember the attacks on the embassies got delayed 9 months, and nobody talks about that, in 1998 because the TNT showed up late.
The number one threat that we have right now, in my view, is the fact that we don't know who came into our country in the last 4 years of Biden's open borders.
So when Joe Kent says there's 18,000 terrorists on U.S. soil.
Did you just say?
Now, you heard that right. 18,000 known and suspected terrorists on U.S. soil let in by the Biden administration. Remember that. Always. I mean, even beyond this video.
18,000?
So far, NCTC has identified around 18,000 known and suspected terrorists that the Biden administration let come into our country.
Last time we talked, we were thinking it was 1,000.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought it was about 8,000, but he actually testified recently that it's 18,000 known Islamist terrorists on U.S. soil.
These are individuals who under normal circumstances would never be allowed to enter our country because of their ties to jihadi groups.
So Al-Qaeda put 1,000 in the first wave, as we know.
2 National Guard members shot and critically wounded near the White House.
He was vetted to serve as a soldier in Afghanistan. The Biden administration essentially used his tactical level vetting as a ruse to bring him here and to bring him into our communities. And we've seen the tragic results of that.
Have you been tracking this Epstein stuff?
If you read Epstein's files, the person pulling the strings is Cutter. One of the main princes was really close to Epstein. People
So
are
was
making
the former prime minister of fucking Israel.
people are not understanding is, unfortunately, the elites are extremely perverted. So I've known this for a long time. So none of this is surprising to me. Like, you stay away from the elites because they are not good people. Al-Qaeda's moving people in Nogales, they're moving people in San Diego, they're moving people over in Los Alamos.
Former CIA targeting officer with years on the front lines of counterterrorism, known by your call sign, Superbad. 100,000 subscribers
They made these type of things
in 1 week.
Oh, and then
Oh, fuck.
no,
Sarah.
no. So, it's
Let
even
me take a breath.
it's even better. So the director of FBI was down in Texas speaking at an event with law enforcement. I don't know if it was a sheriff's association or what, and he called the Homeland plot clickbait. So we have the head of the FBI going around telling law enforcement that an Al-Qaeda plot is clickbait.
There is confirmation now that the subject had a relationship in Afghanistan with partner forces.
Ever since you started coming on the show, I've been asking you, what do you think about these Epstein files? And I think it gets into, I think it gets into why we were maybe in the Middle East, some of the stuff with Iran that's going on. I mean, it's looking more and more. I don't even know what to call it other than fucking blackmail. Let's say hypothetically it comes out that Epstein was a Mossad agent. I think that fucking dude was a Mossad agent. What would that change your opinion about Middle East policy? Doing a Disney show or something?
Oh, yes. Well, now
You're like, oh yeah.
well, it wasn't Disney. Disney picked up. You know, I worked at Disney in college.
I didn't.
Yeah, that was my job. I was like that annoying person when you walked in the gate and I took your family photo.
Holy shit.
Hey, man. Do you have any of those?
I don't.
You're one of those people who don't buy them. We work on commission, man.
One of those people that don't.
That's put me through college.
You beat up a cop and some people at a hospital.
No.
What is that?
See, this is the problem, people, when you get hired somewhere.
Are there times when you would love to have another address?
So, that woman was a CIA operative, known by her call sign Superbad. They don't give themselves those call signs; those are given to them by their peers. So, but you heard what she said. My main focus out of that whole video, not only that's a video that I am going to seek out and watch, and you should also, but my main focus is what she said at the beginning and what was repeated in that video testimony before Congress. 18,000 known and suspected terrorists connected with jihadi groups. What does that mean? Those are Muslim terrorists. Okay, they're not radical extremists. They're just Muslims. This is exactly why I stress that we have to combat the Islamization of America. We have to combat these Muslims coming here to, in their own words, take over the United States. In their own words, create a global caliphate, and get rid of the Constitution and replace it with Sharia. So what do I always say? You have this giant bowl of M&Ms, and a small percentage of those M&Ms are deadly poison that will kill you instantly. But nobody knows which ones of those M&Ms are the poison ones. Are you going to eat the M&Ms? Are you going to even touch the M&Ms? Most people are going to tell you absolutely not. I'm going to throw those suckers away. But here in America, we invite them in. As the Iranians are fighting to take their country back from the Islamist regime, we literally invite those same people into our country. And even though the imams, the leaders of the Islamists, will tell you that Islam is not a religion, we allow them to operate under freedom of religion. We allow these people into our legislature. Oh, yes. The legislature that makes our laws, that pretty much, alongside President Trump, runs this country. Any sane American should be terrified. Any sane American should be angry. It should royally piss you off. We are literally under attack from within our own country, and nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody cares. Oh, yeah, they're refugees. No, they're not. They've taken over 53 countries in this world. And are working on the rest. They are in no way, shape, or form refugees. They are no way, shape, or form being persecuted. They are doing the persecution. Currently, as we speak, they're killing Christians. See, the alphabet people, LGBTQ plus sign ampersand whatever asterisk, people, they support these people, even though the Islamists would kill them in a heartbeat if they were in one of their own countries. Because that's what, in Islam, that's what you do with those people. You kill them. So, what can we do? We can make our voice heard. As conservatives, I've said this many times. If we speak together, we speak loudly. Make our voice louder than the liberals. Make our voice louder than the radical left. Louder than the communists. Louder than the Islamists. I would say probably a jihadi. Oh, no. Truthfully, honestly, it would probably look like an ape. What is going on, Aunt? Glad to see you in the chat. One of the people that always keeps me on my toes. He's always coming in here with some oddball out of left field stuff, and kind of keeps me on my toes. But yeah, glad to see you in the chat there. But yeah, I mean, what we can do about it is raise our voices louder than anyone else, and we did it. We've done it. We can do it again. We can continue to do it. I know it gets tiring hearing me preach about this, but I've got to impress upon you the importance. We are literally poised, to lose our country in one of several different ways. We lose our country to the communists. We lose our country to the Islamists, to the Muslims. We can lose our country, simply to the Democrats, who will bring in the Islamists and the communists. So I mean, we're under, a a whole lot of attacks, and we can very easily lose this country. It could very easily become the communist republic of America. You know? Yeah, St. Patty's is one of our favorite holidays, and we're going to be actually me and Marilyn. We're going to be celebrating Valentine's Day a day late because she has to work on Valentine's Day. So we're going to have a belated Valentine's Day. I would like that, actually. Um, I would like borders as secure as North Korea. I would like borders secure as Poland. In Poland, they shoot border crossers on sight, and they're proud of it. They have orders to shoot to kill. so so they don't have an illegal alien problem. You ever hear of North Korea having a problem with illegals? People sneaking into their country. First off, nobody wants to go there. But secondly, if they did, they couldn't do it. Those are some of the most secure borders in the world. They absolutely do not have a problem with people sneaking into their country. I mean, I wish we had borders that secure. If we had that tight of control over who comes in and who goes out of our country, we wouldn't have to worry about 18,000 freaking known terrorists having come into our country under Biden, and we don't know where they are, what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We wouldn't be having to worry about that. My M&M analogy of the bowl of M&Ms wouldn't apply. It would not apply in our case if we had borders that tight. I would love it if Trump would convince Congress, of course, with our help, screaming as loud as we possibly can at Congress, at our various representatives, and et cetera, and our various senators. If we could, along with President Trump, could convince them to lock down our borders with guard towers that with 24/7 guards that are armed with orders to shoot on sight, shoot to kill. Oh yeah, I would definitely vote for that for sure. Because although the entire world wants to come to America because this is the greatest country in the world, and it still is, even though we have all our problems and everything, even with those problems and what have you, we are still the greatest country on the planet. And everybody still wants to come here. The only people that don't want to be here are the extreme leftists who want to run away and go find out that America actually is the greatest country on the planet because they always come back. Ellen DeGeneres did. Rosie's trying to, Rosie O'Donnell. Many others have fled and are begging to be allowed back. I hear you, Aunt. I hear you. M- many of our representatives are in it just simply for the money, whatever money they can make, whether that be from corporate America, whether that be from some uh, lobbyist group for a special interest, or what have you. Whether that be from insider trading, we know that goes on, and you know, Nancy Pelosi, most prolific of all of our uh, legislators in Washington. Um, she is by far the most prolific with the insider trading. Oh, but she didn't do it herself. Oh, her husband did it. Well, who gave him the information? Does she talk in her sleep? She swears up and down she had no part in insider trading. Well, maybe she talks in her sleep, and he's sitting there writing it down. He's like, "Yeah, uh-huh. And what else? And what else?" You know? Maybe she should set up a hidden camera, you know, see if she can catch him uh using her talking in her sleep for financial gain if she didn't do it. But she did it. We all know she did. You're going to sell everything, buy a yacht, and go harass the Somali pirates. Oh, make sure that yacht is well armed. Also, make sure it has an escape vehicle in case they're able to hit you with some small rocket, etc., and cause enough damage to sink you. Make sure you have in tow some kind of escape vehicle. You know, um, but yeah, go harass the Somali pirates. Oh, wage a one man army on a one man war on them. You know, be a one man navy. Oh yeah, why not? Why not? If I had enough assets to sell and do that, I might think about doing that and live streaming it. Uh, right, right, yeah. I mean, in my opinion, those even though it's Russia, they got the right idea. You know what I mean? I'm serious, man. Poland with their shoot to kill orders for the border guards, freaking North Korea with their extreme border control. Russia with their armored cruises going out killing pirates and whatnot. They got the right idea. Secure your part of the world, which is what Trump is trying to do here uh, in the Americas. He is trying to secure our part of the world. You know, he wants to make sure that our part of the world at least is safe. You know, I mean that's the whole reason for the well, not the whole reason, but it's a large part of the reason for the whole attempt to acquire Greenland. That is the whole reason for uh, Venezuela with Maduro. Right, right. And did you hear that Mexico is the Mexican government is denying that the drone strikes that the cartels launched against the United States uh, ever happened, even though it happened within their borders or came from within their borders and etc. But the Mexican government is ate up with cartel operatives, so I mean you can't really trust the Mexican government. I think I think we need to pull a Maduro on the Mexican government, and not just take the president, but take excuse me, half of their government, because they're all criminals. They're all tied in with the cartels. The cartels pretty much control most of Mexico. There's very little of Mexico that they don't control. So, so I mean, if we want to secure, to make the Americas at least, okay, you know, North America, Central America, South America, if we want to secure the Americas at least, if not the rest of the Western Hemisphere, at least the Americas and our territories, like Puerto Rico and etc. Um, we have got to really start getting hardcore and extreme with these countries like Mexico. You know, um, it's becoming an extreme situation with these cartels, and in extreme situations, you have to use extreme measures, in my opinion. And you know, we've got to, whether we have quote permission or not, we've got to start actively going after these cartels, actively taking them out. I can guarantee you that U.S. intelligence knows, where the members of these cartels, especially the leaders, live, where their families are at, you know, where the cartels operate from, where their warehouses are, where they keep their drugs and weapons and all the various different things that they deal in, where their labs are at, etc. I guarantee you, U.S. intelligence knows where all those places are, and can easily give coordinates, to the military for targeted strikes. And you start off by targeting the leaders of these cartels, targeting their home, their actual home. Take them and their entire family out. This sends a message to the rest of the cartel. You're gonna die. you know, so I mean that's my opinion. We need to target the leaders and get extreme. Actually, purposely take their families and them completely out of the equation. That'll send the cartel itself into chaos. You know, and then we just systematically take the rest out. You know, we can't we can't just settle for arresting these people. I mean, arresting them doesn't work. Yes, I'm rooting for it. um, the CIA has plenty of sources of funding. Okay, they have created networks, that don't involve drugs, or any of that, but they have created networks for themselves where if one of their sources of income uh, is eliminated, it really doesn't hurt them as bad as you might think that it would. You know, I mean, just look, the CIA made billions off of the NGOs. Okay. Now we've brought quite a number of uh, NGOs. We've brought quite a number of them to light, and for many of them, we actually have cut off funding and etc. And well, look at some of them. There are a few that you would have thought when we cut off funding to them, they'd die, they'd go away. Now, a lot of them did, but certain ones are still going strong. They're still active. Why? They have alternative income sources. You know, yeah, it might hurt them for about 5 minutes, and then, they just move to alternative source, and boom, they're still going. Barely even affected their operations. And that's the way the CIA works. And that's the way intelligence agencies around the world. You name the country, they all work that way. In fact, many of them share some of the same income sources. And every single one of them works together. All of them. Intelligence agencies around the world, it doesn't matter what country they're from. They share the same income sources. They share information with each other. What they consider to be too sensitive, they don't share. But they share information with each other. In a situation where 2 or 3 countries share a mutual enemy, they'll team up. No problem. Even though those 3 countries might be enemies with each other, they share a common enemy, and they'll team up temporarily. It's, but that's the way intelligence works. These people are spooks. They're ghosts. Technically, they don't have a country. The CIA is under the auspices of the United States government, but they'll fund our enemies if they feel that that's the way they need to go. So, I mean, literally funding cartels, and etc., if it benefits them in some way, shape, or form, while the cartels are harming the United States. But that's the way intelligence works, though. If you ever have to work with a CIA operative, always keep your eyes on them, because if you turn your back, they might run you through with a knife or a bullet. You never know. Yeah. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this show. Main reason I brought that video in was I wanted to, actually make you all aware, of just how many, and that's a conservative estimate, 18,000. That's a conservative estimate. That's what they can actually prove. Right? They and that's exactly how they see the world, Ant, as a chessboard. And they are very unique people. I've known a few myself. I am not, nor have I ever been military, so I've not had the opportunity to work with any of them. But I have met a few. and been able to talk with them and have conversations, etc. You know, and yes, they proved to me who they were. They proved to me that they were uh, operators, as they say. um, so yeah, but that is how they see the world, as a chessboard. They're playing a extremely long and drawn out game of chess. You know, with and I kind of liken it to uh the games on the internet where you're playing chess, but like in between moves you have these mini games that you have to get through in order to make the next move. You make a move, on the big board, then you play the mini games and you get through those mini games, then you can make another move on the big board. That's how I kind of liken it, the way what they're doing. And what is going on, James, over there at Empty Pockets Podcast? Glad to see you in the chat. Y'all go and follow James on Empty Pockets Podcast, right here on Rumble. Um, I'm not going to advertise his YouTube channel because he's got enough followers over there, enough subscribers. I need some subscribers on YouTube. I need subscribers here on Rumble. You know? Oh, but his going on, James. Good to see you in my chat. But interviewing Alex Duncan tonight. Okay, awesome. I hope that goes well for you. I know sometimes these interviews they can be a little rough, but I think you got this. I think you have it. I'm sure you have your list of questions ready and etc. So I hope that goes well for you. Let's go ahead and get into the show. Got a number of articles that I plan on presenting to you all. Yeah, I probably will. Just if you want to send me a link or whatever, and otherwise I'll probably hang out in the chat if you don't. So but anyway, there we go. Zoran Mamdani back in the news. Mamdani demands U.S. immigration policy start obeying Islam. You heard that right? Obeying Islam. Right. But yeah, Mamdani is demanding immigration policy start obeying. You see, I have highlighted it right there. Islam. Mamdani invoked Islamic doctrine to define civic obligation and delegitimize lawful constitutional authority. Or at least he's trying. At New York City's Interfaith Breakfast last week, Mayor Zoran Mamdani did not merely criticize federal immigration enforcement, he reframed it as a religious and moral transgression. Invoking the Islamic doctrine of Hijrah, he urged New Yorkers to, quote, stand alongside the stranger in permanent, unqualified solidarity, elevating prophetic example above constitutional sovereignty. He said, and I quote, Islam is a religion built upon a narrative of migration. No, see, the Muslim people are a nomadic people to begin with. Okay, they are nomads. You know, they Islam is not a religion in the first place. It's not a religion. This from the top imams in the Islamic faith. Multiple of them have said it, that Islam is not a religion. It's a governance. It's a means to literally govern and control every aspect of your life. Literally. you know, quote, the story of the Hijrah reminds us that Prophet Muhammad, a vile individual, by the way, was a stranger too. Everyone's a stranger when they go to a place they've never been. Who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina. He then universalized a narrative into a binding civic command. Quote, the obligation is upon us all to look out for the stranger. Absolutely, it is not. You know, we can be welcoming and friendly to a point, but welcoming and friendly doesn't mean that they are treated with the same respect as the natives, as people who were born in a country. Okay, they do not qualify for the same rights and privileges and treatment as citizens. I've spoken on this at length in many episodes of Big Tony Speaks and on Shoot the Breeze Sunday. Yeah. Wait for the backflow. I like that, James. It may have been the Sand People. We don't know. But it was actually to keep humanity out, because at that point humanity was not worthy of the garden. The garden was a paradise, a place where there was no pain, there was no death, etc., according to the Bible. And because of the original sin, which is passed down through mankind, because of the original sin, mankind was no longer worthy of the garden. So it was protected, and an angel was put there with a flaming sword to guard the garden, and it has been hidden from humanity's eyes ever since. But hey, it could have been the Sand People. But which ad? I don't see Iron Bean on there. You're probably talking about right here, and it cycles, the ads cycle. So it probably was up there moments ago. In this framework, federal enforcement is not lawful authority, but cruelty. Immigration officers become, quote, masked agents paid by our own tax dollars who, quote, violate the Constitution and visit terror upon our neighbors. Well, no, they're enforcing the Constitution. Well, they're also enforcing federal law approved by Congress. They have been empowered to enforce over 400 different laws, federal laws. Quote, if these are not attacks upon the stranger among us, what is? Mamdani asked. There is no reforming something so rotten and base. This is an inversion of moral authority. Mass migration is framed as a moral and civilizational imperative. For the nomad, maybe, but, not everybody in the world is a nomad. Demanding compassion and openness while serious pushback on enforcement is recast as intolerant, unjust, or even xenophobic. This framing mirrors elements of the Muslim Brotherhood's doctrine of tamkeen, institutional entrenchment, outlined in strategic writings such as the 1991 Explanatory Memorandum and the 1982 Project, which describe a phased civilizational strategy built on population presence, parallel institutions, resistance to full assimilation, and long-term influence over policy, law, and public narrative. The result is a classic hypocrisy cost in the weaponization of mass migration. Constitutional states, bound by professed commitments to human rights and compassion, must either enforce borders and absorb accusations of cruelty or abandon enforcement to preserve a humane self-image. While the advancing cause bears no reciprocal burden of allegiance, assimilation, or responsibility to the political community whose resources it claims. In his speech, Mamdani invoked Islamic doctrine to define civic obligation and delegitimize lawful constitutional authority, largely without media critique, even as hosts of voices on the left regularly decry any invocation of Christianity in the public square. In doing so, he transformed Islamic narrative into civic mandate and federal enforcement into sacrilege, which will inevitably cause a gradual dissolution of constitutional sovereignty. Once enforcement is recast as violence and migration as a moral right, borders cease to function as instruments of self-government, citizenship ceases to require allegiance, presence detaches from sovereign consent. Loyalty gives way to dependency. The state remains, but its authority is hollowed out. Enforcement rendered illegitimate not by law, but by accusation. This framework directly abandons the naturalization oath, the pledge to, quote, absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance to any foreign sovereignty. I've talked about that at length on this show. And to bear, quote, true faith and allegiance to the Constitution. The oath presumes a vertical bond between citizen and republic. Mamdani replaces it with a horizontal obligation to the stranger, regardless of legality, capacity, or constitutional order. Allegiance becomes optional. Empathy becomes compulsory. This rhetoric was not abstract. It was paired with executive action. Mamdani's signing of Executive Order 13 reaffirmed sanctuary protections, barred ICE entry onto city property, including schools, shelters, and hospitals, without a judicial warrant, and restricted data sharing with federal authorities except where legally compelled. He also mobilized faith institutions as citywide distribution nodes for Know Your Rights materials. Nearly 32,000 multilingual flyers were disseminated through faith leaders alongside new oversight mechanisms framed as safeguards against perceived federal overreach. Enforcement was structurally obstructed. Now, we're going to go back into this paragraph. Okay. Mamdani doesn't have the authority to bar, come on, there we go, to bar ICE entry onto city property, including schools, shelters, and hospitals. He doesn't have the authority to require a judicial warrant. Now he does have the authority to restrict data sharing with federal authorities except where legally compelled. Okay. But all the rest of that stuff he doesn't have the authority to do. So it's just virtue signaling, and he may try to enforce those things, because he is extremely deluded, as an individual, as a so-called mayor. He is extremely deluded, as are most of these Democrat or leftist mayors and governors, etc. The result is fragmentation. Victor David Hanson warned that, quote, tribalism is one of history's great destroyers. Once racial, religious, ethnic, or clan ties trump all considerations of merit and loyalty to the larger commonwealth, then factionalism leads to violence, violence to chaos, and chaos to the end of the state itself. Mamdani's speech illustrates that process in motion. The same pattern produced Europe's parallel societies and no-go zones where enforcement became politically untouchable. It is now visible in American cities where sanctuary expansion renders borders symbolic and law selectively optional. This is not compassion. It is the systematic replacement of citizenship with dependency, sovereignty with moral coercion, and a nation bound by law with tribes bound by grievance, abandoning the naturalization oath's demand for, quote, true faith and allegiance to the Constitution. So you see, you see literally what these Democrats and Muslims and communists are working towards. They're all working towards the same goal. Okay. They're reasoning a little bit different, but all with the same goal of conquering America. You heard me? Conquering. You don't have to fire guns and bullets to conquer a nation. Trust me, 53 countries can tell you that, although in some of those nations they did actually have battles with guns and bullets, the majority of the conquering of those nations was done exactly as it's going right now. Yeah, there were. There were. Um, but yeah, their ultimate goal is to conquer America. Everyone should start raising hogs. Hell yeah. Keep them in your front and backyard. Allow them, all around your home. You know, train them to come running when they see humans. You know, that way, a Muslim comes anywhere near your house, they will be ran off by the pork. You don't even have to lift a finger. Well, they'll go running off. Oh, haram, haram, haram. So, wear a meat suit. That's right, James. Yeah, wear a meat suit. And when you get done at the end of the day, cook those steaks up and those pork chops up, and well, I had it right in the first place. Pork steaks. But yeah, cook them up on the grill, and have your pork every day. You know, make sure it remains heavy on your breath. And when you get near a Muslim, you start talking, with a lot of H words. Hi, how you doing? So you breathe that pork out on them. Right, right. Absolutely, James. Absolutely. Oh, and what do we have next? We have, let's see. Oh yeah, yeah. Have y'all seen this? A woman was caught on tape setting fire to a warehouse that she heard a rumor was about to be a ICE detention center. And there was actually a sale that was happening, that ICE was trying to buy this warehouse, but the sale fell through. Apparently, this woman didn't hear the rumor that the sale fell through, because she thought it was going to be an ICE detention center, so she tried to burn it down. Oh yeah, there is video of that, and you see in the picture right here. You see, you know, she is spraying lighter fluid all over the place, and then you see here she has started the fire. Authorities were able to extinguish the fire because they got notified about it um, fairly quickly, and they were able to get there before the fire got out of hand. Yes, that is arson. However, they don't know the identity of this woman. Now you can see her face; it's a little blurry in the video, and I think someone out there knows who this woman is. Oh yeah, she be protesting and shit. Yeah, oh yeah. But someone knows who this woman is, and hopefully someone will see that face and oh, I know her, and turn her in. Because there were people inside of this warehouse when she set it on fire. That's how they were notified in time to stop the fire before it did too much damage. You may not want to. You may not want all that crazy. You know what I mean? These leftist women, yeah, they are extremely insane. This was in Kansas City, by the way. Um, A deranged leftist was caught on tape committing an act of possible domestic terrorism. And that's probably how they're going to charge it when they finally do catch her, is probably going to be charged as domestic terrorism. Um, but anyway, a deranged leftist was caught on tape committing an act of possible domestic terrorism earlier this week in Kansas City, Missouri, as attacks against ICE continue to spread. I hear you, James. I hear you. On Thursday, KMBC released a video showing the moment a woman set the building on fire. The footage starts with her throwing what appears to be a Molotov cocktail into the warehouse before lighting a match. Flames start to emerge as she retreats. She comes back with an accelerant to pour on the fire, causing it to spread. She pours more accelerant around the building before fleeing the scene. And here is a video. I'll go ahead and read you. This is from KMBC on X. A woman tried to set fire at a South Kansas City warehouse that had been rumored as a possible ICE detention center. Earlier today, the company that owns the property confirmed it is no longer moving forward with a sale to the U.S. government. Apparently the sale fell through. Probably the Department of Homeland Security found a better deal and backed out of the sale. We don't know. It just the sale fell through and did not happen. However, this woman didn't get the memo, and here is that video. Okay, you saw. Let's stop that, and I'm going to back it up a little bit, and we're gonna make it bigger. Well, that didn't help a whole lot, but it did get a little bigger. ICE was there yesterday. Cool. Yeah, she could get life because, as I said, there were people inside this warehouse at the time when she was setting it on fire. There she is with the accelerant. See that? Flames just got huge when she sprayed the accelerant, and she goes on to spray it even more. And I'm no expert, but that looks like stucco to me right there. And although you wouldn't think, but stucco is quite flammable. Beneath the stucco is styrofoam, so also quite flammable. But that is what we have as far as video. Okay, it doesn't burn very well. Okay, well, I've been told before that stucco burnt pretty good, especially the styrofoam base underneath it. But to me, I'm no expert. That looks like stucco to me. I may be wrong, but it looks like stucco right there to me. But as you saw, she started off with the throwing of the Molotov cocktail and then spraying accelerant, and etc. And as I said, there were people inside that building as she was setting it on fire. And there is no defense because she was by herself, setting the fire. Nobody was helping her. She was caught on video. Probably somebody sitting outside in their car eating lunch I used to do that when I worked at uh, a produce warehouse. Um, Me and Marilyn, we worked there together, and we would go outside at our lunch break and sit in the car and eat lunch. Probably somebody sitting in their car eating lunch and notice her coming up. Hey, I'm going to film this. You know? Okay. Yeah, she will not. She'll not have a defense for that. There's absolutely no defense. She's going to have to plead guilty and take whatever they give her. Um, right, right. Yeah, I've done construction before, but it was always a crew that came in and did all the stucco. I don't really know a whole lot about stucco and etc. I've watched them, apply the mesh and the styrofoam and all that, and then smear the mud on there. Oh, I've watched them do some cool designs in the mud and whatnot. That's so it's cool to watch and everything, but I've never done that kind of work. I've done construction pretty much all phases from the foundation up. You know, so but yeah, the woman has not been identified at this point. It's also not clear when firefighters arrived to put out the blaze. It's my understanding from uh, not just that post that you just saw, but other posts on X, by gleaning information from them. It's my understanding that they arrived fairly quick after this woman left, and they put out the fire and made sure everybody was okay and safe, but that there were people inside the building. KMBC reported that the building, owned by Platform Ventures, an investment firm based in Kansas City, was eyed as an ICE detention center. Reports about this warehouse being used to imprison illegals began to circulate in January. The outlet revealed that on the same day the woman was caught committing the arson, Platform Venture announced it would not be moving forward with a sale to the U.S. government. Here's more background from KMBC. Port KC meeting documents at the end of January seemed to verify the reports, noting it had learned Platform Ventures planned to sell the property to the federal government. Port KC later voted to cut ties with the company, though Port KC made it clear it was not involved in the sale and could not stop it. But Platform Ventures set the record straight, issuing a statement February 12th after, quote, baseless speculation, inaccurate narratives, and serious threats toward leadership led the company to address the property and sale. Quote, Platform Ventures is not actively engaged with the U.S. government or any other prospective purchaser involving a sale of its property at the I-49 Industrial Center, Platform Ventures said. Far left Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas, a staunch opponent of ICE, uh, issued a statement that KMBC obtained. Notice how he does not condemn any criminal activities against ICE, including the recent arson in his city. Um, I am aware of a recent release from a Kansas City firm regarding a distribution facility in South Kansas City that has been rumored as a target for a mass ICE detention encampment of up to 10,000 persons. While Kansas City welcomes any news suggesting the halting of a planned conversion of a warehouse for goods and products into a human encampment, I will continue with our legislative, legal efforts and community engagement to ensure no warehouse or similar facility in Kansas City or nearby is converted to a mass encampment warehouse of persons that is offensive to the dignity and human rights of those who would be detained within it. I hear you. I hear you. But on this is the insanity of the left right here. You know, on a rumor, on a rumor, not, guaranteed fact or, any sources that have been confirmed or anything like that. Just on a rumor, this crazed leftist woman goes and sets a building on fire with people inside. This is just on a rumor. But then we have seen them attack their own simply because they thought they might be ICE or Trump supporters. So that is the insanity of the radical left. Here you go. Leftists invoking Jesus to mutilate kids and defend rapists heap judgment on themselves. They do provide entertainment, at least, they give us creators a lot of content. We just have to pick and choose the relevancy, of their insanity. Democrats are allergic to context, which is why they repeatedly offer microwaved interpretations of passages from a book they actually hate. In a recent appearance with the vaunted theologians of The View, oh, yeah, Governor Andy Beshear posited Jesus' teachings as the reason for vetoing legislation protecting children from transgender ideology and the body destroying interventions that flow from it. He also argued that, quote, every ICE agent should be withdrawn from every city and every community that they are in, ostensibly on the basis of biblical principles. The strategy isn't new. Beshear is just a recent example of the Democrat fallback plan of trotting out a cardboard Jesus as justification for, quote, loving policies that actually oppose what the real Jesus taught. I hate it when the page glitches like that. While giving fellow Democrats some advice on being authentic, Beshear boasted that, quote, most of the decisions I make are based on that golden rule that says we love our neighbor as ourselves. And that parable of the Good Samaritan that says everyone is our neighbor. He then explained how his application of these teachings led him to veto, quote, the nastiest piece of anti-LGBTQ legislation that ever came through my state. RNC Research on X posted Kentucky Democrat Governor Andy Beshear uses the Bible to justify the gender mutilation of children. Beshear, my faith teaches me that all children are children of God, and whatsoever you do unto the least of these, you have done unto me, Jesus said. So, are you going to mutilate Jesus on purpose for any reason?
But we rarely talk about the why. People want to know what drives us, especially in a world with social media where everyone's looking for the next authentic thing. For me, that's my faith. Most of the decisions I make are based on that golden rule that says we love our neighbor as ourselves. Yeah. And that parable of the Good Samaritan that says everyone is our neighbor. Yeah. And so when I've taken actions like vetoing the nastiest piece of anti-LGBTQ legislation that ever came through my state, I described it in those terms. I said, my faith teaches me that all children are children of God. Yeah. And I didn't want people picking on those kids.
Yeah. So you heard it from his mouth right there. The legislation Beshear referred to isn't exactly clear. In March 2025, he tried to stop a bill that would allow therapists to tell clients the truth about sex and reality while preventing Medicaid dollars from flowing into the trans intervention industrial complex. 2 years before that, he vetoed a measure that protected women's restrooms and shielded kids from ideology-driven medical procedures. In 2022, he attempted to block a bill keeping men out of women's sports. Of course, Beshear isn't the only Democrat summoning a caricatured Jesus as the supposed driving force behind leftist causes. I think he's a Muslim. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, you remember her? She's the one who assaulted ICE agents under the guise of oversight and got herself prosecuted for her efforts. LaMonica McIver, remember that name? It will come up again, I am sure. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver grilled Immigration and Customs Enforcement Acting Director Todd Lyons on his eternal destiny this week. Quote, how do you think Judgment Day will work for you with so much blood on your hands? McIver spat before asking, quote, do you think you're going to hell, Mr. Lyons? Nick Sorter, we know Nick Sorter, and we love Nick Sorter. He is awesome. Follow him on X. WTF, LaMonica McIver is going full ghetto on DHS officials. Quote, how do you think Judgment Day will go for you with so much blood on your hands? And, quote, do you think you're going to hell, Mr. Lyons? Democrats make these hearings circuses every single time. Lock this witch up. I agree.
So let me ask you some questions that you may be able to answer. Questions. Mr. Lyons, do you consider yourself a religious man?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, how do you think Judgment Day will work for you with so much blood on your hands?
I'm not going to entertain that question.
Oh, okay, of course not. Do you think you're going to hell, Mr. Lyons?
I'm not going to entertain.
Of course not. How many government...
Gentlelady will suspend. The gentlelady will suspend.
Chairman?
A gentlelady will suspend as I...
She got told to shut up. The gentlelady will suspend is legal speak for shut your mouth. She had no right, no reason to ask religious questions in a government hearing. Now, the left are all the time talking about separation of church and state, and yet she, in a public congressional hearing asks him religious questions. Right. I hear you, man. I hear you, uh, Joseph. Now, Bible believing Christians have never considered the subject of hell off limits, in part because Jesus discussed it a lot. But Democrats typically treat hell as having room for only two people, Hitler and Trump, when they're not calling anyone who believes in it a hateful sadist. So it seems strange to see a Democrat eagerly jump into the discussion of that fiery extremity, at least until viewers realize that this was just another form of leftists pulling fake Jesus out of the closet to condemn stuff they don't like. I don't remember. I think it was censure. I'm not sure. Um, Conveniently for the Democrats, fake Jesus is flexible. On the one hand, he's holding hell over the heads of those enforcing immigration laws, even when federal enforcement of those laws protects vulnerable women and children from rapists and child abusers. On the other hand, he never says boo to anyone about anything when it comes to something like transing the kids. It's an age old distortion of the truth that God is both just and loving. Well, he is, but they have it kind of twisted. Just as Bashir's use of the Golden Rule and the Good Samaritan to justify blocking measures to protect children from insidious lies and mutilation is also a distortion of the truth. See, that my friends, you know, I'm well versed in. Um, the devil is known as the father of lies, and what makes the best lie? It's a lie that's based in the truth. Okay? The devil knows the Bible just as well as any preacher, any pope, any bishop, any priest, you know, um, just he knows it just as well as the writer, the inspiration God who inspired men to write those books that were put together in the Bible. So the most effective lies are the ones that include a sprinkling of truth. So you take a verse from the Bible out of its context and apply it to something that it wasn't meant to apply to, and then surround it with lies, and here's a little thing that you have to remember: a thing can be true and at the same time not be the truth. I don't think it's like really an owner's manual, James. I think it's more of a playbook, a guidebook. You think of yourself as being on God's team. Okay, James, I will see you later. If you want to send me a link, and I may drop in there and say hey and whatnot and hang out with you for a little while. We'll see what happens. But go with God, my friend. But yeah, think of it as more of a playbook, a guidebook. You're on Team God, and you're following the quarterback, Jesus, and he has the book of plays, and he is, okay, in this situation, you're going to need to use this play right here, and, it's kind of a guidebook for life. Life is the game that we are in, you know. And there have been bad leaders that have used religion in quite the wrong way in the past. That is absolutely true. Um, but that doesn't condemn the entire religion. That condemns those leaders who used it for the wrong reasons. So, um, but anyway, let's get back to the article here. And she lives in Cleveland. I like that, Joseph. I like that. Oh, the golden rule for the record is actually, quote, so whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets. But neither the golden rule nor the command to, quote, love your neighbor as yourself creates a moral imperative to give people whatever they want, carte blanche, as Bashir suggests. Jesus explains the golden rule immediately after telling his disciples to ask for good gifts because their heavenly Father will give them. Regardless of what Democrats think, the context shows he wasn't talking about handing out fentanyl and elective mastectomies. Um, Similarly, the Good Samaritan, quote, bound up the wounds of the waylaid Jericho bound man. He didn't further mutilate him or offer him medically assisted death. You know, um, the Samaritan, to the surprise of Jesus' listeners, acted more righteously than the drive-by priest and the Levite. But the point of the story isn't his immigration status or LGBT rights or whether all 8 billion, quote, neighbors should have automatic rights to enter the U.S. whenever they please. Rather, the parable of the Good Samaritan is Jesus' answer well, to a self-righteous, eternal life-seeking lawyer, think Old Testament law, who wanted to, quote, to justify himself. The context matters. Democrats seem quite allergic to context, which is why they repeatedly offer manipulative. Yeah, I'm going to repeat that. They repeatedly offer manipulative, microwaved interpretations of passages from a book they actually hate. uh, for their own eternal spiritual well being and the spiritual well being of the people they're lying to, now would be a good time for them to stop. A very good time. But they're not going to. So, we need to just be aware of their tactics and be ready for them. Hey, we all look at things through our own lenses and through the lens of our life experiences, Joseph and Aunt. Uh, so, um, the the best way, however, to look at life is through the lens of Jesus Christ and the Bible. So, and even if Christianity and the Bible are wrong, how does it hurt you in any way to go by those teachings? So you've lived a good and righteous moral life following those teachings. How has it hurt anything? Yeah, feminism has ruined a lot there, Aunt. A lot. And has ruined a lot of people's lives as well, both men and women. Here is a little piece of good news. Something that is apparently currently in the works. The U.S. Senate moves toward criminalizing sanctuary city mayors and governors who defy federal immigration law. And I think that's a good thing, and I hope it passes through both houses, hopefully before the midterms. I hope they codify that into law quickly. The United States Senate is finally moving to hold rogue mayors and governors personally accountable for their defiance of federal immigration law. They need to also include judges. They need to be able to hold these rogue judges accountable for going outside of their authority and jurisdiction. For years, these, quote, sanctuary politicians have shielded criminal aliens, obstructed ICE agents, and turned American communities into high-risk zones, all while demanding taxpayer-funded bailouts to clean up the mess they created. Yeah, you're right. Feminism is a form of communism. Senate Republicans, led by Senators Lindsey Graham and Eric Schmidt, introduced powerhouse legislative packages designed to strip, quote, the sanctuary label of its power. The End of Sanctuary Cities Act of 2026, introduced by Graham, doesn't just cut off funding, it carries a hammer. It keeps fluctuating too wildly right now, and under the proposed legislation, state and local officials who willfully obstruct federal immigration enforcement or refuse to comply with DHS detainer requests could face, quote, up to 5 years behind bars for officials who, quote, impede, inhibit, or stymie federal agents. Stripping the, quote, qualified immunity that has protected these politicians from lawsuits filed by victims of crimes committed by illegal aliens. A complete cutoff of federal grants, including transportation and infrastructure funds, for any jurisdiction that refuses to share information with ICE. And Rapid Response 47 on X right here. Lindsey Graham on his bill to end sanctuary cities, it, quote, would make it a crime for a state or local official not to turn over to federal authorities a criminal illegal immigrant. You would face punishment that will stop illegal sanctuary city policy. Get it done. And that's my sentiment right there. Get it done. And there are a lot of things that Congress needs to, quote, get it done on. And many of these have already been proposed or already, it's possible to go ahead and bring it to the floor for a vote. But right now they're concentrating on this little thing and that little thing and the other little thing. They need to get these things done. Many of them can be done without the support of Democrats. So
Thank you very much. So DHS apparently is going to shut down. I hope we can get it back open. What is this all about? Obey the law? Good. I got an idea for if you want people to obey the law in this country, do away with sanctuary cities. Senator Murphy is from Connecticut. It's one of 12 sanctuary states. What does that mean? Local officials, state officials refuse to work with the federal government to turn people over to the federal government as required by federal law. So you want to obey the law in Connecticut? Stop being a sanctuary state. You want to fix immigration? Have policies that make sense. Y'all act like for 4 years Biden wasn't president. Every Democratic senator aided and abetted the Biden administration with a massive invasion of this country. You turned the other way. You never said a word. You let Biden obliterate our border. You let him send people into the interior on planes, trains, and automobiles. Only God knows what happened, who's here. You said Biden, you did nothing. And here's what I've learned about my friends on the Democratic side. They're never going to agree to deport anybody because all their proposals make it pretty much impossible to deport anybody. Body cameras, that makes sense. If you want to find out how to make ICE more professional, count me in. But your proposal is to require a judicial warrant to deport somebody. Can you imagine how many judges you would need if you got 15 million illegal people here to go get a warrant from a judge? This is not a criminal proceeding. This is an administrative proceeding. The president, as the commander-in-chief, has the ability to detain and deport people administratively. You don't need a federal judge. You're trying to create a mechanism so we will fail cleaning up your mess. We got elected to clean up your mess. We're going to hold ICE agents accountable if they went too far. Tom Homan went to Minnesota to turn the heat down. Great. Democratic politicians all over this country have been turning the heat up. You're wedded to lousy, dangerous policies. Senator Murphy, why don't you get Connecticut right with federal law? Here's what's happened. We got 12 sanctuary states, 200 plus sanctuary communities, 25,000 people. ICE has requested a detainer, ignored for 2 years. States have refused to work with ICE for 25,000 people that have a detainer at the federal level. Sanctuary city law is a magnet for future illegal immigration. Sanctuary city policies are full of fraud, like in Minneapolis. They bring out the worst in the system, not the best, and it breaks down law and order. We've been talking for weeks about you want to fix things. You're blocking a debate. I can't believe I'm here. I thought we were going to work together to try to find out how to reform ICE and also address the bottom line problem, which is sanctuary city law abuse. That's the problem, not ICE, not Miller, not me, not Noam. Policies that have been in place that entice more illegal immigration. Every Democratic senator turned the other way during the 4 years of Biden. You didn't do anything to bring reason to chaos. How many of you spoke about Lincoln Raleigh, talking about children being abused? How many thousands of people have been raped and abused, stolen, and mistreated because of this invasion of illegal immigrants from virtually all over the world, with people from gangs, you name it. So you never talk about the victims. You just want to talk about TV in Minnesota. I'm all for these ICE agents being reviewed. I'm all for making them more professional. But I'm not all for stopping the mandate that President Trump was given, which is to deal with illegal immigration and the criminal elements therein. So I have legislation, it's S3805, and it says if a state or local official does not turn over to the federal government an illegal immigrant who's facing criminal charges, been convicted or facing criminal charges, then that state or local official can go to jail. You have an obligation under federal law to turn these people over. Sanctuary states and cities, 25,000 ICE detainers denied. 25,000 people that should be deported have not been turned over to the federal government because of these 12 states and these 200 sanctuary cities. Let's get to the root cause of the problem. So, Mr. President, I am going to ask unanimous consent that we vote on S 3805 that would make it a crime for a state or local official not to turn over to federal authorities a criminal illegal immigrant. Somebody's charged with a crime or convicted with a crime, and if you don't turn them over, you would face punishment. That will stop illegal sanctuary city policy. If people knew they would go to jail for breaking federal law, I think they would stop. You've had weeks, and we're not even debating. You're never going to change. If you want to have immigration policed, our Democratic friends will never be there for you. They turned their back on you and your family and allowed this nation to be invaded by 10, 15, 20 million people. Who the hell knows? We're trying to fix it. We're trying to fix it, and we're not going to give up. And until you change the policies, you never stop illegal immigration. If there are 12 states, Mr. President, that have sanctuary status, they'll keep coming. All they got to do is get to one of these states. It's magnets for future illegal immigration. It breaks down law and order, and it needs to stop. So, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of calendar number 318, S 3805. Further ask unanimous consent that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
So there are some senators and some representatives who are, trying to promote, the agenda that we mandated for the Trump administration. But they're fighting a tough battle, and because not only are they up against the Democrats, but they're up against the rhinos as well. That's where we come in. Our vote, can change that. Our vote can get rid of the rhinos and put team players in there. We just have to be very selective about the Republicans that we put in there. But our vote, has to be, just like the 2024 presidential election, it has to be so big and so unanimous among the conservative population, that, it can't be denied, it can't be cheated, it can't be stolen, no matter how hard they try. They tried to steal it during the 2024 election. They cheated. They were caught cheating in multiple cities and states, and it didn't work because, the silent majority proved that they were the majority. They made their voice heard loud and clear. So, Senator Eric Schmidt unveiled the Protect America Act, a definitive move to end sanctuary cities once and for all by conditioning federal funding on full cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. Under his new proposal, local officials who, quote, obstruct, impede, inhibit, stymie, hinder, hamper, or interfere with federal immigration officers carrying out lawful duties could face up to 5 years in federal prison. Senator Schmidt's plan contains 4 central planks. 1, permanently ending sanctuary cities, making sanctuary cities illegal. Well, here's the thing. They already are illegal. The laws on the books make them illegal. Number two, enhancing penalties for illegal entry and reentry. And we've got to make those penalties much stronger. Three, protecting our law enforcement. And four, defunding rogue non governmental organizations, NGOs, the ones who are financing all of these riots. They're not protests, they are open rebellion against the government. You do not have the right to protest, it is not covered under the First Amendment. Quote, the rule of law is central to our constitutional order. A nation that does not enforce its immigration laws cannot effectively protect its people. Today, as we sit at the inflection point between two competing visions for our country, one rooted in chaos and lawlessness, the other in law and order, I am introducing a 4-point plan to defend American sovereignty, restore immigration enforcement, defund rogue left-wing NGOs, and protect law enforcement. To secure our future, we must enforce our laws. The American people deserve no less, said Senator Schmidt. And that is exactly right. The American people deserve nothing less. Alrighty then. Just got a text from James. But anyway, let's move on. Keep the show moving. Oh, I thought this one was kind of insane, which, of course, it is about Tampon Timmy. So, of course, it's insane. But what do you all think? Tim Walz demands U.S. taxpayers, not Minnesota taxpayers, U.S., the whole country, U.S. taxpayers pay for, quote, damage caused by ICE in Minnesota. Well, see, here's the problem with that. ICE didn't do any damage. It was all the left-wing so-called protesters, the rioters, the insurrectionists, if you will, that did all of the damage. So they should be the ones being made to pay. And you can chase them all down because, hey, there's plenty of video. And, hey, that is what the left used to chase all the so-called insurrectionists from J6 down, even grannies that didn't even do anything wrong, all across the country to prosecute them. And they showed no mercy to anyone. So they have the technology, they have the ability to make those individuals who are involved in all of the damage creation, to make them pay. And he said, Tim Walz, Tampon Timmy, said, and I quote, "You don't get to break things and then just leave. They left us with serious damage and generational trauma." Well, you should have thought about that before you encouraged the people of Minneapolis to riot and damage and attack ICE and attack CBP and attack anyone that they thought might be ICE or CBP or Trump supporters or what have you. They were attacking their own people simply because they thought they might be supporters of ICE or CBP or Trump. Still are, as a matter of fact. I saw a video just the other day where they attacked one of their own, and when they were made to understand that this was one of their own, they slank back in shame, and then proceeded to do it some more to someone else. Make it make sense. Oh. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on Thursday demanded that the federal government now pay for the, quote, damage they caused in Minnesota following the Trump administration's withdrawal from immigration operations in the state. First, he thanked the radical left-wingers in Minnesota for violently driving federal agents out of the state, which resulted in the death of 2 anti-ICE rioters. Then he revealed that he plans to provide forgivable, quote, $10 million one-time targeted loans from the Minnesota Small Business Emergency Fund. But Walz wants U.S. taxpayers to foot the bill. Quote, the federal government needs to pay for what they broke here. Federal government didn't break anything, Walz said. But they are going to be accountable. Who wrote this? They are going to be accountability on the things that happen, but one of the things is the incredible and immense costs that were borne by the people of this state. Okay. Bad grammar. These costs reportedly include $1 million in rental assistance for those impacted by immigration raids and $4.3 million for police overtime pay while far-left anti-ICE rioters took over the streets. Well, that was at Tampon Timmy's behest. He encouraged them to do that. He threw gasoline upon the fire, as it were. He allowed Jacob Fry and others to stir the pot as well. And, it all rests on their heads. Tampon Timmy, Jacob Fry, Keith Ellison, and Ilhan Omar. The cost and the blame rests with them. Oh, yes, you're right, Aunt. The next one will be more violent, larger, and will result in more death until ICE agents start getting killed. And maybe then Trump will invoke the Insurrection Act, and actually do something about it. Quote, they left us with serious damage, generational trauma. They left us with economic ruin in some cases. They left us with many unanswered questions, Walz said during the press conference. As the Gateway Pundit reported, rioters took over the streets of Minneapolis and lit a dumpster ablaze following the death of Alex Preddy, an armed left-wing agitator who had prior violent run-ins with federal agents. And here is a video of leftists starting fires in Minneapolis following CBP-involved shooting.
This literally saved my marriage. Every time he takes it, it's like the first time.
Of the Reagan Revolution, and we're trying to light the match of that.
From what agencies?
Law enforcement is in the center from where we're standing right here. I can't see what exactly they have on.
Okay, so you can't
but
tell.
they're in the center right now to preserve the scene.
Yeah.
And Leon, it would appear to me that you've got people arriving there, especially near.
So you saw the smoke, you saw where they were lighting fires and etc. The left-wing radicals also drove law enforcement out of part of the city and established an autonomous zone, as it were. It didn't last very long, from what I understand. And here is a piece of video. Anti-ICE rioters set up autonomous zone after Minneapolis police retreat.
Our people,
Again, after the
our
commercial.
traditions, our families. But without freedom, none of it is possible.
He didn't think this shampoo would work. Men lose hair, especially after 35, so we made a shampoo that's...
I just lost the feed.
Okay, it's
I got it.
okay, Paul. Paul, stand by. I actually do want to get back out to Garrett Tenney because I want to know what's happening there on the ground. It looks like, yes, we'll get back out to Garrett Tenney. And Garrett, if you can hear me, it looks like all law enforcement agents have left now, and it's just protesters.
Yeah, Aisha, we got a couple thousand protesters here just completely filling this entire area. And one of the chants you heard them saying just over the last few minutes is keep this block. They've set up barricades blocking off this entire area that were removed by police initially. They have now moved those garbage trucks, the tables, the chairs, and they're saying that they are going to keep this, almost making it an autonomous zone. They were chanting before that, whose streets? Our streets. And that is significant because, as we've talked about, Governor Tim Walz said, we have the forces that we need to secure this area. We don't need the federal agents here. We saw, though, what happened as soon as the federal agents left this area.
Probably
local
not,
and state
Ant.
police were completely overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of protesters that were here and got driven out of this area altogether. So clearly, they did not have the forces they needed to secure this area then. The question is, going forward into tonight, when things tend to get a little dicier, will they have the forces to control and to secure the city as a whole, or is it going to be a repeat of what we saw after the death?
They did eventually come back with enough forces to disperse the people and reclaim the so-called autonomous zone. We all remember all of that. But to your statement there, Ant, probably not. But, quote, the federal government needs to be responsible. You don't get to break things and then just leave without doing something about it, Walz says. Well, they didn't break things. That's the problem. You can't charge them for breaking things when they didn't break things. It was your people that did it by your own encouragement, and therefore you and those people should be responsible. Walz further called for Democrats in Congress to continue the fight to defund the Department of Homeland Security and force ICE agents to take their masks off. Stating he's also in contact with governors because, quote, I don't want these folks showing up somewhere else and doing this. You see what he is calling for. He is calling for defunding the Department of Homeland Security. See, he's not calling for the defunding of ICE, which is a subsection of the Homeland Security Department. He is calling for the defunding of the Department of Homeland Security. He wants to eliminate the security altogether, completely, of the homeland, America. See, that is what their goal is. See, they want lawlessness because that will be the downfall of the country. They want lawlessness. They want the government to be unable to defend the homeland against their security threats that they are constantly challenging us with. Yeah, they want to shut her down. Yes, she is looking into Georgia, but now she is not just looking into Georgia. Now they, I believe, have moved on, I believe, to Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. And they're, I mean, they're still after Georgia, but they're now moving on to other states where there was fraud, and we know that there was fraud. So, it's spreading, it's getting bigger. The thing is, my question is, once you have proven that all of this fraud and cheating, etc., and manipulation of the votes and what have you, once you've proven that it did actually occur, and it occurred in such a large extent that it did have effect on the outcome of the election, excuse me, what are you going to do about it? That is my question. I need some clarity from the government as to what exactly they plan on doing about the fraud and etc. once they prove beyond a shadow of a doubt to the world, to Congress, to the world, that the fraud did occur, and that the J6ers were justified in redressing their grievances to the government on January 6th. What are they going to do about it? What is the plan? There has to be some kind of plan. That's what I want to know. Well, see, the problem with that, Ant, is interfering with a federal election is a federal crime. It can't be pardoned by the state. So, yeah, that's not a good plan. That's a federal crime, interfering with a federal election. So the charges would be federal. But my point though is, we have so many rogue federal judges that, really you can't bring charges against somebody for something that the left wanted to happen because of all the rogue federal judges. So again, what's the plan? What is the plan that the Trump administration has when they prove that this actually happened? And even beyond actually charging people and trying to prosecute them, what are we going to do about it? As far as, okay, we have proven, if we prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Biden did not win the election, that means his entire presidency was illegitimate. And that means that every treaty he signed, every deal that he brokered, or his team did anyway, he didn't really broker shit, because he was senile and still is. Everything that his administration did was illegitimate. So what, are we going to nullify everything that administration did, whether it was good, bad, or otherwise? I kind of doubt it, because those policies went into effect and they happened. You can't undo them. We're trying to remedy some of them right now, especially the immigration issue, and we're having a heck of a time doing that because of all the rogue judges and etc. And the governors and mayors who are defying federal law, and nothing is happening to them. They're not being arrested. They're not being charged. They're not being anything done to them. Yes, they should be in prison, Maryland, but, try putting them in prison with all these rogue judges, et cetera. Just try putting them in prison. Look at what has been going on already. So many people have been, had charges brought up in federal court, for various different crimes, and the leftist judges either dismissed the charges, reduced the charges to nothing, or or whatever, or even refused to hear the case. They claim that it has no merits. I mean, what do you do when the judiciary has gone rogue and you can't bring charges against people? What do you do, when these mayors and governors know that they can break federal law and get away with it because the judiciary is on their side? They know that even if they're arrested and brought up on charges, that nothing will happen. That's why Tampon Timmy is so confident. That's why Keith Ellison and Jacob Fry and Ilhan Omar are so confident. See, Congress has the power to put an end to this. They have the absolute power, and they don't need the Democrat side to do it. They can do it with just the votes from Republican side. They have the power to put an end to this. But we've got so many rhinos, a large portion of our majority is actually on the side of the opposition, on the side of the Democrats. So, I mean, what is the plan? If there is no plan, or if the plan won't work, then why are we even bothering? Why aren't we concentrating on something else that, that maybe we can actually do something about? That's my question. I need some clarity from the government as to what the plan is. If it's a good plan, I'll support it. If it's not so good plan, I'm going to tell them, well, maybe you might want to rethink that. You might want to come up with something different. Maybe even a plan B and a plan C. Because, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work, And currently, the system as it is right now is extremely broken, needs to be fixed, and well, the people that can fix it are seemingly not listening to the people. How can I trust the plan when I don't know the plan? That's the problem. That is the problem. The American people don't know the plan. They can only go by what they see and hear. And anyone who tells you not to trust your lying eyes and ears is a Democrat. They're a communist. And, they need to be voted out. So, that's one thing. They're trying to secure election integrity. They're trying to do it currently right now in Congress. But you see the devil of a fight that they're having to go through right now. You know, it's ridiculous. Excuse me. Excuse me. You know, it's these are you know, this is a situation that, you know, I know that the politicians are in it for themselves and what their power and their money, their wallets, etc., their bank accounts. But the normie Democrat, I believe that the regular normal Democrat, you know, would support, you know, more secure elections. In fact, currently, right now, with the argument over voter ID, the majority of Democrats do support voter ID. Um, the majority of the people of color in the United States support voter ID. Um, right, exactly, Aunt, exactly. During COVID, they wanted us to have the vaccine cards, the vaccine IDs, you know, and be able to show them to be able to go to restaurants, to go to games, to go to any public event, you know. But somehow elections aren't as important, you know. I mean, in most states, you know, that the thing that a lot of people don't know or realize, in most states, you can get for free a voter ID with your picture on it. That is actually a government ID, and it would be accepted by a bank or a liquor store or, you know, check cashing place or whatever you need it to be, you know, a photo ID for. But you can get it for free in most states. You know, only just a few states don't have that. A lot of people don't know or realize that that is the case. And yes, as Marilyn said, both of us refused the jab. I even, during the height of the COVID thing, I had open heart surgery, and we had literally just gotten off of the streets. We were homeless. You know, we'd just gotten off of the streets, you know, and I had to have open heart surgery. They tested me for COVID, and I came up, you know, no COVID, you know, and they asked me if I wanted a COVID shot, and I said, absolutely not. You know, don't come anywhere close to me with that thing. You know, they asked me if I wanted flu vaccination. Absolutely not. You know, and still to this day, almost every time I go to my doctor's office, they ask me, you know, um, do you want COVID or, you know, flu vaccinations? Absolutely not. You don't you don't come near me with that. You know, you know, I'm sorry, but I will not. You know, but yeah, I had open heart surgery during the height of COVID. Never gotten COVID. You know, we were homeless, and you would think that the homeless population would be dropping like flies during a quote pandemic that was so deadly, etc. You know, we interacted with people all day long because, you know, we had a thing where, you know, we were making jewelry and selling it on the side of the road. You know, and right. I hate them too. I hate hospitals. I hate doctors' offices, etc. You know, I hate having to go and get labs done, all that stuff. You know, I hate having to take medicines, but, you know, with my health, I have to. You know, And yeah, Marilyn actually was directly exposed to COVID um, at her work. You know, she up close and personal interacts with developmentally disabled people, and COVID got introduced into one or more. You know, we're not sure. You know, but one or more of the houses, and she was exposed to it and never actually got COVID. So there were people left and right coming down with COVID, and no, I don't think she did get hazard pay for that. I think she had to do a whole lot of overtime during that because there were a lot of people that were having to go into isolation and stuff. That was at the time when they had just reduced the isolation time to 5 days, and you know, a lot of people were having to go into isolation because they got um, diagnosed with COVID, and yeah, they as she said, they get hazard pay if it's like severe weather, but they I don't think they got hazard pay during the COVID thing. They should have. They most definitely should have. Yeah, I do. I like you, Aunt. I think because see, if you remember, all during the whole COVID thing, the flu just disappeared. There were absolutely no cases of people coming down with the flu. You know, it just vanished. And see, before COVID, here's my problem with the whole COVID thing. Okay, if we're going to get off on a tangent, we're going to get off on a tangent. Come on. My whole problem with the whole COVID thing is before COVID, the the flu was every year killing more people than the COVID virus, the coronavirus killed in its entire run. Okay. The flu was regularly every year killing more people in 1 year than the COVID did in its entire run. And nobody, you know, raised Cain, and nobody wanted to shut everything down. Nobody wanted to lock people down into their homes. Nobody wanted to make everybody wear masks or stand 6 feet away, or, you know, none of that. Restaurants weren't closing down. Businesses weren't closing down. You know, other businesses weren't restricting how many people could come into their business at one time. You know, none of that was happening. Then the novel coronavirus, you know, SARS-CoV-2 is the actual name of COVID. Okay, comes along, and all of a sudden, everybody's in an uproar. You know, the worst thing that has ever happened has just happened. We now have, you know, this new virus, you know, called SARS-CoV-2, otherwise known as COVID-19. And you know, it is so freaking deadly, you know. And what are the symptoms? Well, they're basically severe symptoms of the flu. But wait, the flu went away. You know, now COVID was a respiratory virus. Still is technically. It's still around. It became what we call endemic, meaning that there's a COVID season. You know, a season when people are more likely to come down with COVID. You know, just like the flu. You know, there's a flu season. You know, when more people tend to come down with the flu. You know, so it has become endemic. So it's still around. It hadn't gone nowhere. You know, but the difference between the flu and COVID was when they tested people. You know, they had these symptoms. It wasn't registering as the flu. Oh, it's something unknown. I had a friend before the whole COVID thing even, you know, caught on, you know, so to speak, became a public knowledge thing. Before the first real mention of the novel coronavirus or COVID-19 or, you know, any of that, you know, I had a friend that came down with this case, this severe case of what seemed to be the flu. And he tried to shake it and he tried to shake it, took medicine, all kinds of stuff, tried to shake it. Finally, he breaks down, he goes down to the hospital. You know, what is going on? I'm having these flu-like symptoms. And so they do a bunch of tests and they couldn't tell him what he had. You know, they sent him home. We don't know what this is, but you know, it's not the flu. It's not a cold. You know, it's some sort of respiratory infection. You know, and he actually thought he was going to die. You know, but he powered through it and came out the other side, and he still now has heart and lung issues. You know, of course, you know, he was among the people who are the most susceptible to the flu and who were determined to be the most susceptible to COVID. He was overweight and had various other what they called comorbidities. You know, but he came through it. He said that was the worst experience he'd ever had. You know, and then just a couple of months later, the first people reported with COVID in the United States, or actually reported ever, were made public. You know, that there is now this new virus that is dedicated uh, uh, has been named the COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 is its actual full name. Now, funny thing is, you know, we've dealt with SARS related and coronavirus viruses before. Now, SARS-CoV-1 was the Spanish flu in 1918. You see, we've dealt with these things before. We've had SARS outbreaks. We've had in the physician's desk reference, a book that every physician, every doctor is familiar with and has on their desk. That's why it's called a desk reference. If you get one from before 2019, if you look up coronavirus, it says that coronavirus is the common cold. So, it's after 2019, though, it no longer says that. It identifies coronavirus with SARS CoV 2. And if you can go far enough back in the records, SARS CoV 1, as I said, was the Spanish flu in 1918. which, which funny thing, it was named the Spanish flu, but did not originate in Spain. So, and yes, and hospitals were paid for deaths that were determined to be due to COVID. Um, so they started illegitimately saying that pretty much anybody who came in and um, died because of COVID. So they were fraudulently getting extra money for pretty much every death that happened in their hospital. Also, the treatments that they had at the time, the protocol treatments for SARS-CoV-2, were actually legitimately killing people, and they knew it, and yet they still followed protocol and gave those treatments. Um, the treatments were what caused people to end up on the ventilators, because the treatments actually made the respiratory symptoms of COVID um, more intense. And so because of that, they ended up having to go on respirators, and all the nurses they knew, and there have been some nurses that came out publicly and said this, that they knew that once a patient went on the respirator, that patient was going to die. So they knew that they were legitimately actually killing people and getting extra money for it. And yet they continued to do it. They take an oath to do no harm. and yet they continued with their protocol treatments that they knew were killing people and getting paid to do it. So that's my take on COVID. That's the facts as I know them. It's not all the facts. I know a whole lot more about the whole COVID thing, but I don't want to dive that deep into it right now. So so let me see what are we gonna hit next? Here we go. Here we go. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is in Maricopa County for a quote Georgia-like event with election officials. John Solomon says. Arizona State Senator quote, "Stay tuned, America." And there is video. Okay, and this picture here that you see on your screen, it says is Maricopa County machine failure locations in the 2022 election. That's a lot of machine failures. That is a lot of machine failures. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem will be in Phoenix, Arizona, the heart of Maricopa County, today to reportedly discuss election security as the Trump administration fights the state for voter data as ordered in the president's Preserving and Protecting the Integrity of American Elections executive order. According to the executive order signed in March of 2025, quote, the Department of Homeland Security, in coordination with the DOJ administrator, see, DOJ is still around. It's just in the background. It's not right up front and in your face. DOJ is still around. Shall review each state's publicly available voter registration list and available records concerning voter list maintenance activities as required by 52 U.S.C. 20507, alongside federal immigration databases and state records requested, including through subpoena where necessary, and authorized by law for consistency with federal requirements. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays and Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes have pushed back against the federal government's attempts to secure Arizona's elections, and they filed a lawsuit against the administration last April, the Gateway Pundit reported. Maricopa County was at the center of election scrutiny following the stolen 2020 election and the 2022 election, where 60%, let me repeat that, 60% of voting machines failed on election day, and other irregularities rigged several statewide races for Democrat candidates. Noem's visit also comes just weeks after FBI executed a search warrant against Fulton County investigating fraud in the 2020 election. Just the News' John Solomon on Thursday reported that he believes there will be another, quote, Georgia-like event in Arizona, like what happened in Fulton County, in Maricopa County. Quote, keep an eye on Arizona, he said. She's down there for a reason, and I think my reporting suggests that there will be some sort of important election integrity event tomorrow. She's down there for a reason, and I think my reporting suggests that there'll be some sort of important election integrity event tomorrow. Maricopa County in Arizona, that'll be the second state after Georgia to have that sort of treatment. And here is video right here. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem in Maricopa County for Georgia-like event with election integrity.
I didn't know this new hair formula could do this to my hair. Before you blow another $100 on prescription drugs your doctor pushes.
If you didn't own gold in your retirement portfolio over the last 5 years, you missed one of the biggest wealth surges.
I've been telling you all week, keep an eye in Arizona. Keep an eye in Arizona. I think there's a Georgia-like event in Arizona, like what happened in Fulton County. I think tomorrow is a likely day. So I just want to put that on your calendar. Keep an eye tomorrow. I see Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem going down there. Now, why is that important? The Homeland Security Department oversees the election machines and election counting capabilities. CISA and the Homeland Security Department deal with that. The FBI Justice Department deal with criminal violations. So she's down there for a reason, and I think my reporting suggests that there'll be some sort of important election integrity event tomorrow, Maricopa County in Arizona. That'll be the second state after Georgia to have that sort of treatment. So put it on your calendar, get it ready, and we'll have you covered here at Real America's Voice in justthenews.com.
And there you go. The Maricopa County Board of Supervisors also held a private emergency meeting on Thursday to, quote, receive legal advice regarding new information received the morning of February 12th, 2026. That's yesterday. And Marissa Caldwell on X posted, oh, what's this? BOS emergency? Looks like the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors are suddenly in a panic with an emergency executive session that happened today at 2:30. Weird that it doesn't seem like Bram Resnick, Sasha Hupka, Wayne Schutzke were outside with the rest. And there is the announcement of special notice of emergency meeting of Maricopa County Board of Supervisors to be held February 12th, 2026 at approximately 2:30 p.m. And the rest of it, etc. Removal of this notice is illegal except by authorized personnel. State Senator Jake Hoffman on Thursday teased a major breakthrough in Arizona's elections, saying he'd been in contact with the Department of Homeland Security for the, quote, last 72 hours. Quote, stay tuned, America, he said, noting that, quote, the corrupt Maricopa County Board of Supervisors and their election department are in full panic. And, quote, this Board of Supervisors, past and present, are corrupt to the core. And there is his post saying exactly that. Per Arizona Central, her visit comes at a time when the U.S. Department of Justice is suing Arizona for voter registration and election records that the Arizona Secretary of State says it can't legally hand over. Arizona is among 23 states sued by the federal government over voter data, according to the Justice Department, which says it wants to ensure voter rolls are accurate across the country. Opponents in the states that have refused to cooperate have said the Justice Department is seeking information to bolster President Donald Trump's unfounded claims of a stolen election in 2020 and expressed worry about how the personal information will be used in the future. The federal government seeks unredacted copies of the state's voter registration database, including fields that are not typically shared. It claimed the authority to do so under several areas of federal law, including the Help America Vote Act, known as HAVA. Other GOP-led election reform efforts have stalled. A bill known as the SAVE Act, which would require proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections, passed the U.S. House of Representatives on February 11th, but has narrow prospects in the Senate without Democratic support. This is a developing story, and as I get updates, I will update you all. Election integrity is of the utmost importance. So, as I said, Arizona is apparently the next state to get the Fulton County treatment. Let's see. DHS terminates temporary protective status for Yemen. Thousands told to go home or face arrest. And this is a map showing where Yemen is right here. It's right next to Oman. and right by Saudi Arabia. There is Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia. Right here by the Gulf of Aden and Red Sea. So the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, announced on Friday that it is terminating temporary protective status for immigrants from Yemen, citing improvements in the country's conditions. Temporary protected status for Yemen was last extended by the Biden administration and former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas on September 4th, 2024, through March 3rd, 2026, originally intended for those fleeing civil war in 2015. 2015, the designation has repeatedly been extended. Quote, after reviewing conditions in the country and consulting with appropriate U.S. government agencies, I determined that Yemen no longer meets the law's requirements to be designated for temporary protected status, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said in a statement. Quote, allowing TPS Yemen beneficiaries to remain temporarily in the United States is contrary to our national interest. TPS was designed to be temporary, and this administration is returning TPS to its original temporary intent. We are prioritizing our national security interests and putting America first. DHS gave TPS beneficiaries from Yemen 60 days to self-deport or face deportation. Quote, after the effective date of determination, the Department of Homeland Security may arrest and deport any Yemeni national without status once their TPS has been terminated. If an alien forces DHS to arrest and remove them, they may never be allowed to return to the United States, the department said. About 3,000 Yemenis now face deportation. By the way, to the author of this story, if you happen to see this, the apostrophe right there is not required. You're not showing possession. You're just speaking about multiple Yemeni people. You can say either 3,000 Yemeni or 3,000 Yemenis, just no apostrophe. That aside, let's continue. DHS gave TPS beneficiaries from Yemen 60 days to self-deport or face deportation. Oh, wait, I just read this. How did my page must have glitched. All right, here we go. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services issued the following press release this morning. Washington, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem today announced the termination of temporary protected status for Yemen. The termination is effective 60 days after the notice is published in the Federal Register. Yemen was initially designated for temporary protected status on September 3rd, 2015, based on a determination that there was an ongoing armed conflict that, due to that conflict, requiring nationals of Yemen to return would pose a serious threat to their personal safety. Following the initial designation, DHS extended and redesignated Yemen for TPS in 2017, 2018, 2020, 2021, 2023, and 2024. So they have had plenty of time on TPS. You know, TPS is temporary. Quote, after reviewing conditions in the country and consulting, okay, he repeated here. let's see. Okay, TPS Yemen beneficiaries with no other lawful basis for remaining in the United States have 60 days to voluntarily depart the United States. We encourage aliens leaving the United States to use the U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) Home app to report their departure from the United States. The app provides a safe, secure way to self-deport that includes a complimentary plane ticket, so you get a free flight home, and a $2,600 exit bonus, and you get potential future opportunities for legal immigration, which means you can stay in your country of Yemen and go to the American embassy and apply to come to the United States the legal way. After the effective date of determination, the Department of Homeland Security may arrest and deport any Yemeni national without status once their TPS has been terminated. If an alien forces DHS to arrest and remove them, they may never be allowed to return to the United States. This comes amid the ongoing fight to terminate TPS for Haitian immigrants. And James at Empty Pockets Podcast is rooting for the government on this, that they may actually get the termination. A judge stepped up outside of the judge's authority and put a block for the TPS ending. So those Haitians have a slight reprieve at the moment with which to try to apply and get their status changed so they may stay. And that's the whole point. The Gateway Pundit reported a federal judge earlier this month blocked the Department of Homeland Security from ending the TPS for 350,000 Haitians. 350,000 Haitians. They got to go. The Justice Department has appealed the ruling to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. So the ongoing fight to get these foreigners out of our country continues. And yet another group has been determined to no longer need temporary protective status. The Yemeni must go home. It is time. They've been here long enough. Now, if they've been doing this properly, they have already, because they've been here since 2015. Okay, so they've had plenty enough time to go and apply for citizenship and go through all the hoops and become United States citizens. You know, if they've been been concerned with not being sent home, they would have done the proper thing and go through all the proper channels and do the proper things and become citizens. Now, if not, then they got to go. And they can take their families that they've raised while they were here. They can take them with them, But it seems to me that a lot of these foreigners, they're living here under the assumption that they will never be sent home, and just don't even bother. Well, see, here's the thing with that $2,600. They can live like kings for a long time in their home countries. So you have to think, $2,600 for many people here in America is not much, but when you go to these shithole third world countries, that's a lot of money. They could live like kings. And this is the whole reason that DHS is offering this money to people. It gives them the chance to go home and live like kings, be ballers and whatnot, Maybe even become shot callers, Well, they don't want indoor toilets, Aunt. That's the problem. They don't want indoor toilets. They want to shit in a hole and wipe with their hands. We're primitive because we still use toilet paper. Don't you know? I showed y'all those videos. They want, see, that's the thing. When these people come here, they're not immigrating to assimilate and become part of this country. They're not immigrating for assimilation. No, they're immigrating for replication. They want nothing more than to turn this country into Yemen, into the third world shithole country that they came from. The same with the Afghanis, the Pakistanis, all the rest of them. That's what they want, to turn our great United States into the shithole countries that they came from. We're the backwards, primitive people, according to them. I've shown you the videos. We're according to them, we're worse than animals. We're worse than dogs. And they consider dogs to be, unclean, dirty, so bad that they, that they refuse to allow them in their communities. If you're going down the street with your dog, walking your dog, and you encounter one of them, they'll pitch a fit. Exactly. They are parasites, Marilyn, feeding off of our country. Absolutely. I mean, that's just the facts. Then we have this. I'm sure I reported on it. I'm sure other than me reporting, y'all have heard quite a bit about the Canadian school shooter, trans individual that Canada refuses to call this person by their biological sex, etc., or to even admit that this person is trans. And it feeds right into the pattern. Trans mass shooter pattern continues. Canada, Kirk, U.S. Christian school, and Catholic Church. All of our shooters, all the past, I believe, 10, 11 or so shooters have been either trans or trans adjacent. So it's creating a real pattern here. And you see these pictures of the various shooters, etc. Several high-profile trans-related perpetrators over the past 6 years, starting from the top left of that picture. I'll put it back where you can see the whole picture. From the top left, Audrey, also known as Aiden Hale, Covenant school shooting. Top middle, Jesse Van Rootselaar, Tumbler Ridge, Canada. Top right, Anderson Lee Aldrich, Club Q shooting from 2022. Bottom left is a CCTV picture of Audrey Aiden Hale, Nashville school shooting. Bottom middle, a mugshot of Robert Paul Westman, Minneapolis Catholic Church, and school shooting, 2025. Bottom row in the black shirt, Sonotia Mosley, Rite Aid shooting, 2018. Bottom right, in the wheelchair, yellow shirt, or whatever that is, Maya Alec McKinney, STEM School Highlands Ranch in Colorado, 2019. All of those were either trans or trans adjacent. The February 10th, 2026 shooting in Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia, one of the deadliest mass shootings in Canadian history, left 9 people dead and about 25 injured. Police identified the suspect as 18-year-old Jesse Van Rootselaar, who was male but identified as female after beginning a transition about 6 years earlier. Authorities reportedly had prior contacts with the home related to mental health concerns and had previously seized and later returned firearms. An increasing number of high-profile attacks and plots have likewise involved transgender or non-binary perpetrators. In Minneapolis, 23-year-old Robin Westman, born Robert Westman, carried out the shooting at Annunciation Catholic School. Westman's driver's license and a court-approved name change reflected a female identity. In January 2024, a shooting at Perry High School in Perry, Iowa, left 2 victims dead, in addition to the perpetrator. The shooter, Dylan Butler, reportedly identified as, quote, gender fluid or non-binary on social media. On March 27, 2023, Aiden Hale, a transgender former student, carried out the attack at the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee. In 2022, Anderson Lee Aldrich, who identifies as non-binary, carried out the Club Q shooting in Colorado Springs. Additional cases include the 2018 Rite Aid Distribution Center shooting in Aberdeen, Maryland, carried out by Sonotia Mosley, who was transitioning from female to male, and the 2019 STEM School Highlands Ranch shooting involving Alec McKinney, a transgender boy. Beyond single incident shootings, there is a broader pattern of violence by transgender individuals, as well as by what is commonly referred to as Trantifa, a term combining trans and Antifa to describe an informal grouping of transgender activists or far-left activists aligned with militant anti-fascist or anarchist ideology. And yes, are you talking about the Canadian shooter killed her family before going and doing the mass shooting? Now that shooter did take their own life. Was not shot by law enforcement. One example is the Zizian group. I have spoken about the Zizians on this channel, on my show, before multiple times. I did a deep dive, as a matter of fact, into the Zizian group. And here they are popping up yet once again. The Zizian group, led by Jack Ziz Lasota, whose members have been connected to multiple killings and arrests in 2025. Another case involved a prevented workplace mass shooting plot in Oregon involving Elizabeth Ballesteros West, whom federal prosecutors charged with making threats across state lines. An FBI search of her residence uncovered a large cache of weapons. The trans-related shooting that most affected conservatives was the assassination of Charlie Kirk, according to eyewitness accounts and video footage from the September 10th event at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. The dialogue immediately preceding the shooting was as follows. Hunter Kozak, quote, "Do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years? Charlie Kirk says, too many. And he's right. Hunter Kozak, quote, "Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Charlie Kirk says, counting or not counting gang violence. At that point, the shot was fired immediately after this last question before Kozak could respond or Kirk could continue speaking. Tyler James Robinson, 22, was charged with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. According to law enforcement, investigators recovered bullet casings engraved with transgender-themed slogans, including phrases associated with Antifa rhetoric. Robinson was living with and in a romantic relationship with a transgender partner at the time of the shooting. His hostility toward Kirk was connected in part to Kirk's public positions on transgender issues, which Robinson viewed as hateful. Kirk never expressed hatred toward anyone and often said that we are all sinners who can be forgiven in the eyes of God. He held to biblical truths, hating the sin but not the sinner. On multiple episodes of the Charlie Kirk Show, including in June 2024 and during his 2025 campus tours, Kirk argued that the blurring of gender lines represented what he called a rebellion against God's created order. He cited Deuteronomy 22:5 to argue that men dressing as women is an abomination, applying the verse to modern drag performances and transgender identity. Kirk repeatedly stated that, quote, "gay sex is a sin," citing Leviticus 18:22. In June of 2024, Kirk used these verses to rebut Christian influencers, including YouTuber Miss Rachel, who is absolutely not a Christian, by the way, who argued that, quote, "loving thy neighbor implies support for Pride Month." It absolutely does not. Kirk responded that true love involves telling people that sinful behavior is an abomination in the eyes of God. The problem with the trans movement and its liberal supporters from this perspective is that they consider stating what many Christians view as obvious realities, such as that there are only men and women, to be an attack. They consider the Christian position hateful, even though figures such as Charlie Kirk and Father Mike Schmitz articulated the Bible position. that God loves everyone and that everyone is welcome in God's house, and yet that homosexual behavior is a sin. Transgender identity is a delusion, and forcing others to affirm that belief as a violation of the First Amendment is seen as a violation of the First Amendment. Christians maintain that every person is loved by God and that all of us are broken and flawed. We all are sinners and come short of the glory of God, but we are redeemed through Christ Jesus, our Savior. For holding these beliefs, Charlie Kirk was killed, and many transgender activists and liberal supporters now openly express hostility towards Christians, often disrupting public speaking events or harassing Christians who preach in public. The Don Lemon Peel church assault was reportedly tied to immigration enforcement, but it was carried out by the same demographic that frequently opposes Christians for their stance on gender ideology and the unborn child's right to life. Don Lemon Peel has on many occasions made his feelings known about the Christian faith, and then he turns around just recently and said that he was a better Christian than Christians. He said this on national television, by the way, and I did report on it. In fact, I made a whole episode of it. So yeah, he said, and I quote, "If you are a real Christian like me," the same person who attacked a church and its parishioners and its pastor. If you're a real Christian like me, yeah, okay. I hear you. Let's see. I think if I think really, they should, they should, uh, uh, condemn him to an island somewhere by himself, with solitude, with no supplies, make him work for it. Because if they send him to prison, he's going to have fun, because, of course, he's going to be the bitch. And, well, that's what he wants to be. I mean, for all his cries of white supremacy and racism and all white people are racist, he is married to a white man and getting that D every night. So, methinks thou dost protest too much. I think that if we were to send him to a prison, that he would think of it as a fun vacation for however many years. Of course, then, he may come out of there no longer being Don Lemon Peel, but being Donna Lemonade. You never know. That's just my thoughts on the matter. Let me get this ad out the way. Here we go. Senator Joni Ernst and White Coat Waste hammer Pentagon-funded labs for hiding spending on, get this, listen to this, octopus hypnosis. I'll say that again. Octopus hypnosis. Monkey mind reading. One more time. Monkey mind reading. And mouse mRNA tests in violation of federal law. Federal law says they're not supposed to be doing that kind of stuff. White Coat Waste and Republican Senator Joni Ernst released 2 letters on Thursday exposing how Pentagon-funded animal labs are flat out ignoring federal law and refusing to tell American taxpayers how much of their money is being spent on cruel and bizarre experiments. Now, a number of years back, the complaints were about our money being spent on experiments to find out why an apple is sweet, or strange things like that. I mean, I can tell you why an apple is sweet, because it has natural sugars that grow within it, and that is why it is naturally sweet. We already know that. It has been known for a long time. So they still spent, I believe it was some $5 million. And at that time, that was a lot of money. They spent some $5 million on experiments to determine why an apple is sweet. Now, they have even more bizarre experiments. Ernst sent a letter to the Department of Defense Inspector General, Platt Moring, demanding answers about why grantees are dodging the COST Act, the Common Sense Transparency Law she authored that requires every DoD-funded project to publicly post the exact dollar amount in press releases, studies, and announcements. In her letter, Senator Ernst laid out 5 jaw-dropping examples where labs took Pentagon money but conveniently forgot to tell the public how much, including, here we go, quote, octopus hypnosis, tonic immobility, research funded by the Office of Naval Research, elephant seal sleep studies have been backed by 7 different Pentagon grants. Snail mucus experiments. Snail mucus. Paid for by the Air Force, Space Force, and the Navy. Here you go. Here's one for those terminally online. Quote, doom scrolling. Yeah, you heard that right. Doom scrolling on Facebook behavioral research. Monkey brain signal decoding to, quote, read their minds. We'll read that again. Monkey brain signal decoding to, quote, read their minds. One project that reportedly sucked up as much as $6.25 million. Every single one of these public announcements or published studies excuse me, admitted, quote, DOD funding, Department of Defense funding, in vague terms, but refused to post the actual price tag, a direct violation of the Cost Act, which Ernst got passed in the 2021 NDAA. Quote, the Pentagon diverted defense dollars towards octopus hypnosis, calculating how long seals, the fin-footed semi-aquatic mammals, not Navy SEALs, sleep, and monkey mind reading, Ernst told the Daily Caller. Well, monkeys and seals and octopi, oh my, it's anyone's guess how much was spent on this questionable research because the price for taxpayers isn't provided as required by law. Right? Right. Well, they're already in some places trying to implement a version of that. They're calling it predictive law enforcement. Coming soon to a town near you. Quote, this is exactly why I authored my Cost Act, to put an end to this shady spending and ensure folks in Iowa and across the nation know exactly how their hard-earned money is being spent. Ernst added, quote, if we want the Pentagon, the only federal agent that has the only federal agency that has never passed an audit, and they haven't. They routinely fail their audits. To clean up its books, putting public price tags on these funds can no longer be mission impossible. On the same day, government watchdog White Coat Waste Project sent its own formal complaint to the Inspector General, which they first shared with the Gateway Pundit, naming 4 major universities for brazenly violating the same statute while torturing animals with taxpayer cash. Oregon Health and Science University. Okay, they injected monkeys with an experimental HIV-like virus after giving them, quote, a therapeutic at least $7.3 million in taxpayer money. Emory University, right here in Georgia, they pumped synthetic mRNA into mice. Roughly $28.7 million was funded by taxpayers. Harvard's Wyss Institute, they gave pigs traumatic brain injuries. About $4.4 million in taxpayer money spent. UC Berkeley, well, they're well known for their BS. They implanted neural probes into bats' brains. Nearly $1.5 million came from taxpayers. All 4 universities touted the experiments on their websites and news pages, but never disclosed the exact taxpayer funds involved, brazenly violating the Cost Act. White Coat Waste, WCW, not the Wrestling Foundation. WCW is urging the DOD to suspend funding to those who have violated the law. Quote, we respectfully urge your office to work with Senator Ernst to ensure full compliance with the Cost Act and request that the DOD, suspend taxpayer funding to any grantees that violate this statute, WCW's letter concluded. This isn't the first time Senator Ernst and White Coat Waste have teamed up to expose and end wasteful animal experiments. The 2 previously worked together to shut down Pentagon-funded cat constipation studies. I'm going to say that again. Cat constipation studies. And cruel puppy poisoning tests that were being conducted in China with U.S. tax dollars. In a statement provided to the Gateway Pundit, WCW Senior Vice President Justin Goodman said, quote, White Coat Waste is proud to support Senator Joni Ernst's tireless work to rein in reckless DOD spending at home and abroad, like the Pentagon's wasteful cat constipation experiments and puppy poisoning tests in China that we work together to expose and end. Her Common Sense Cost Act requires a public price tag on Pentagon funded projects, and our investigators have uncovered animal labs skirting her transparency law and referred them to the Inspector General. Taxpayers have a right to know how their money is being spent, and any animal lab that violates Senator Ernst's federal funding disclosure requirements doesn't deserve another dime. The Pentagon's 140 plus billion annual research budget is supposed to make America stronger, not fund snail slime, octopus hypnosis, or secret monkey mind reading projects while hiding the costs from the Americans footing the bill. Taxpayers deserve to know exactly where their money is going. Senator Ernst's Cost Act was designed to end the secrecy. These labs are violating the law, and the DOD Inspector General now has a clear mandate to enforce it. And there you go. Now you have some idea what your tax dollars are going to. Octopus hypnosis. Elephant seal sleep studies. Snail mucus experiments. What the heck? Doom scrolling on Facebook behavioral research. And monkey brain signal decoding to, quote, read their minds. I mean, come on. I think we can come up with better uses for the taxpayer dollar. And anyway, with that, that was my last story that I prepared for you guys. I thought that one was the whole reason I included it was it was informative. You know, your taxpayer dollars are going to pay for that stuff. But I thought it was insane the things that actually are being paid for. And I can assure you, if I was to acquire a full list of the various experiments that the Department of Defense is on the record, you know, and not the top secret stuff, the stuff that they are on the record as funding, you would flip out at the insane things that they are doing experiments for, and millions of dollars being thrown towards those things. So, any questions, comments, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, from my viewership, those in the chat or just watching? Any of y'all have any questions, comments, suggestions, etc.? If not, you know, this is going to be where I call the end of the show because I'm getting tired. My throat is getting sore, and I am ready to get some rest. Okay. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, Aunt, and the rest of you as well. Tomorrow is Mad Marilyn's movie Madness, and I'm going to be seeking out and seeing if I can get a hold of a digital copy of one of the many, whichever one I can find, one of the many Human Centipede movies. If I can't, then I'll present something else, possibly another one of the Leprechaun movies, possibly. Um, that the Human Centipede was suggested in the chat. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. But I'm going to see what I can do about finding that. But anyway, I'm going to call this a show. And I thank you all so much for coming and watching the show and hanging out with me in the chat and talking to me, etc. I thoroughly enjoy having discussions with you all and some of the off the wall stuff that some of y'all say, especially Aunt. And let's do it again and again and again. Big Tony Speaks is Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. And as I said, on Saturday we have Mad Marilyn's movie Madness. If you want to come hang out with us and watch a movie and comment on it, etc., that's the whole point. Oh, you found it? Okay. You'll have to send it to me, Marilyn, so that I can add it to my collection and use it on Mad Marilyn's movie Madness. So, anyway, God bless you all. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And God bless America. Lord knows this country needs it. And with that, I am Big Tony, your host. This has been Big Tony Speaks. And I am out of here. I will see you all next time. Y'all have a great one. I am out of here. Later.